While we're talking about defence, the plot thickens on this business of these Chinese warships have been floating down the east coast of Australia. Now, we talked about last night that last Friday they were doing live fire drills off the coast of Australia, and we found out about that because a Virgin pilot was flying overhead and he alerted Air Services Australia. Well, today the military has been up at Senate estimates and they've corroborated that turn of events. But there's another little tidbit that has been included. That's that the New Zealand military picked up on it before our military picked up on it, even though it took them quite some time to do it. I'll give you the timeline. It was 9:58 a.m. that a Virgin pilot on Friday realised that these warships were firing about. It was at 10:18 a.m. that an Emirates pilot realised they were firing. It wasn't until 11:01 that the New Zealand Army realised that they were firing and then in turn let us know. But of course we already knew, not because our military had worked it out, but because a Virgin pilot had worked it out. And the other thing is that the Prime Minister last week was saying we had received notification that this was going to happen. Then the story became, oh, well, the notification, didn't come fast enough. We didn't know in time that it was going to happen. But now we keep hearing more and more this week from different outfits, the military and Air Services Australia and the New Zealand military, that they were the ones who let us know. Here's the Prime Minister.
There were two areas of notification. One was from the New Zealand vessels that were tailing, were cooperating, we've been monitoring the vessels in the area by both sea and by air. So that occurred, and at the same time, through the channels that occur when something like this is occurring, Air Services got notified as well.
When the occurrences are occurring, the people who see occurrences occur to tell us that it's occurred. What the hell was he talking about there? But he's lied. He said that at the same time as the New Zealand military was telling us it was going on, Air Services Australia told us it was going on. No. 9:58 a.m. was when Virgin phoned it through to Air Services Australia, who then told our military. It was more than an hour later, at 11:01, that the New Zealand military told us that they'd seen it. It didn't happen at the same time at all. Here's Peter Dutton saying there's questions to be answered.
There are really significant questions that need to be answered here. If there was an incursion across into our waters and Defence didn't know about it, or the Defence Minister didn't know about it, we need to ask those questions and they should be answered. And frankly, the Prime Minister should stand up and explain what is a very significant event.
And for what it's worth, New Zealand's Defence Minister, Judith Collins, doesn't seem to be terribly perturbed by any of this.
I've talked to the Chief of Defence Force this morning because I've heard that there is some report that there was some delay, and we're just going to find out quite what that was.
Some report, there might have been it. Oh, look, I've asked him, mate. He'll find out what was going on. I mean, we talk about the fact that we need to boost our defence spending. We just don't seem to take these things with any seriousness. The Prime Minister can't get his story straight. 1 minute it was, we had warning, then we find out there was no warning, then we're told that our allies warned us at the same time as the commercial pilots, which is not true. The commercial pilots warned us at least an hour in advance. Can we not get this stuff right?
I'm not quite sure what's happening here. There seem to be two possibilities. A, Anthony Albanese is just not across the detail, and he's quite famous for that. The other possibility is Anthony Albanese is desperate to avoid any sort of confrontation with China at all. He's desperate to avoid any circumstance in which he might have to step up and actually do what... Remember, Tony Abbott once said he was going to shirt front Vladimir Putin. Can you imagine Anthony Albanese shirt fronting anybody? He's desperate to avoid that, and so he just lies. And the problem with that is when you get the Prime Minister of the country lying to the populace about issues of national security, that's a pretty major breach of trust. And second, it signals to the Chinese, keep doing this stuff because no one other than the Prime Minister of Australia itself will run cover for you.
Well, I think China already knows that it can keep doing this stuff. it has occurred quite regularly. We have one of these stories at least, let's say, once every 3 months. And yet they get slapped on the wrist for it because our politicians have to do the obligatory, please don't do that, that wasn't very nice. And then last time, we showed the Chinese spokesperson giving their version of the story to their people, saying, no, Australia was the aggressor in international waters. They fired flares at us, and we were just trying to... It was utter nonsense, but that is what they do. And if you read their state-run media, that is all they do. And think of it, if this is the motley crew that we've got now, while China is, flexing but not doing anything overtly aggressive, can you imagine if we were actually under attack? Even a small attack. This would be the same motley crew at the helm. Goodness knows what we'd be commentating on then. We certainly wouldn't be laughing about it because we wouldn't have the luxury then.
We probably wouldn't know that the Chinese had landed in Australia until either the Aboriginal people over in WA worked out that they'd already been there for 4 days with their drones, or a Virgin pilot was flying overhead, or maybe the New Zealand military would realise we'd been invaded.
People would just be sharing it all over X. That is how we'd learn. They'd be filming it on their iPhones and we'd be like, all right.
Bad things are. Forget Anthony Albanese, forget the New Zealand Defence Minister. Someone who's actually making a tiny bit of sense on this is Jackie Lambie.
They're staying their distance. They're very scared of Tasmanians, mate. I'll tell you now. We have our own secrecy thing going on down here. They don't want to come anywhere, and as sure as hell don't want to come anywhere near the top when Jackie Lambie's here. I want to keep everything really calm here. This is nothing new. I just want these Chinese people to know the Chinese are always trying to stick out their chest. You know, they're like the little boy that cried wolf. They never do the right thing. So if you're going to expect us to tell them they're doing live firing, you know, they're not mates of ours. This is what they do.
There you go. They won't go near Tasmania because they wouldn't want to mess with Jackie Lambie. We just need a few more Jackie Lambies spread across the top end, and Australia will be safe. Caleb was just... You were telling me...
Yeah, Xi was the first leader of China to actually visit Tasmania. I think it was not too long ago. So the story might not be correct. Maybe Jackie wasn't in town.
I love how she talks about it, though, like, this is nothing new. Like, don't worry about it. Happens all the time. You know, another day, another little something from China. She said that several times. It's kind of like
she's pretty much personally guaranteeing the safety of Tasmanians because she is there and on the job.
We could just give them Tassie.
Like, be calm, this happens all the time.